What's up, everybody? Ron Placone here reporting for Status Coup. I've not been following the Olympics a whole lot, but one of the things that has been all over the ethers, you can't avoid seeing it, is the women's boxing match between Amani Khalef, I'm probably mispronouncing that, from Algeria, and Angela Carini over in Italy. So it was a very short match. It only lasted 46 seconds. Angela Carini took a very hard punch, and then she just kind of had a meltdown and felt like she was being forced to fight a man. And then the blogosphere went nuts. All kinds of headlines dropped that a biological man was competing in the Olympics and boxing as a woman. And of course, all of the people you would suspect who have an issue with transgender people and also simultaneously over the past few years have become experts in women's sports. They had a lot to say. World leaders from Georgia Maloney to Donald Trump. Piers Morgan, one of the highest paid journalists in the frickin' world, had this to say about it. Here's what Piers Morgan had to say. So disgusting. I once asked our new sports minister if she would be happy for Floyd Mayweather to identify as a woman and compete in the Olympics against women. And she refused to say it would be wrong and unfair. So Piers Morgan is comparing this situation. And here's the headline from the Daily Mail: biologically male opponent. That's how they describe Amani Khalef. He's comparing this to if Floyd Mayweather identified as a woman and competed in the Olympics against women. Here's the kicker, everybody. Amani Khalef, which I'm probably mispronouncing. Again, I apologize. But while I may have mispronounced her name, here's a truth about her that a lot of people got wrong. She is not transgender. She's not transgender. She was born a woman. She was raised a woman. She's competed as a woman her entire life. She's not transgender. Full stop. Here's the situation. She has a condition known as DSD. DSD is a condition where you have hormonal levels and testosterone levels that are similar to a male. There are a number of medical conditions women can have where their testosterone level is similar to that of a male. This is a pretty uncommon thing, but it's not an unheard of thing. In fact, it has happened in the Olympics before. She's not the first Olympic athlete to have this. And it is such that they have been testing for this sort of things as well as other substances since the 1970s. So this isn't some totally new thing. In fact, here, this kind of unpacks it a little further. Why was Amani Khalef allowed to compete? So they bring up the 46-second competition there, pointing out that she's not a transgender athlete. She was born female, has DSD. She's not undergone any procedure or anything like that. In fact, in her country, it's illegal to get transgender surgery. So, and her testosterone level in this case did not breach the rules of the Olympics. Now, in other situations, she has been declared ineligible. There was a competition in India last year because of the levels of testosterone that she had. She was declared ineligible, but she was cleared for the Olympics. She has competed in the past. In fact, in recent times, she has a 9-5 record. In the media, they were making it out like she's this behemoth male just beating the shit out of all these females. If that were true, don't you think her record would be better than 9-5? I'm not saying 9-5 is a bad record. It isn't. It's a perfectly fine record. But 9-5, you might miss the NFL playoffs. That's not necessarily the record of somebody who's just dominating females. So that's clearly not what's happening here. So the big story here is that some of the top world leaders and one of the highest paid journalists in the world couldn't take a few minutes to do a few seconds of research to find out that this woman is in fact not transgender. And as recent as today, some people are doubling down on it. Here is J.K. Rowling. The idea that those objecting to a male punching a female, she's not a male. She's not a male. The idea that those objecting to a male punching a female in the name of sport are objecting because they believe Khalif to be trans is a joke. We object because we saw a male punching a female. They're just doubling down on it. So now, and that's a really interesting take, isn't it? Because now it's gone from transgender people shouldn't be allowed to compete in women's sports to a woman who's born in a way we disapprove of shouldn't be allowed to compete in women's sports. Where's it? Who is going to be allowed to compete in women's sports eventually? I think just to be safe, we need to limit it to J.K. Rowling and her friends. It needs to just be J.K. Rowling and her friends. Those are the only people who can compete in women's sports. That's a really, really interesting circumstance we find ourselves in. So here's the thing. People say, well, the condition that she has gives her an advantage. My response to that? Okay, that's life. Look, somebody who is 6'6" has an advantage in basketball. Somebody who is bigger boned has a better chance at being an offensive lineman than somebody who's skinny. Somebody who has longer arms or legs has an advantage in running or swimming over somebody who doesn't. Here's a fun one. My favorite sport's hockey. In the NHL, a large percentage of all NHL players have birthdays around the same time. Their birthdays typically in the same month or in a span of about 1 to 2 months of each other. Is that a coincidence? Not really. In Canada, where hockey is taken very seriously, they start playing at a very, very young age typically. And they start playing in leagues. Now, these leagues have a cutoff where you are ineligible for a certain league and you are in the next one. So if you are born right at that cutoff on the other end of it, you're going to be the oldest player in your league. You'll be among the oldest players in your league, which when you're 5 years old, if you're 6 months, 8 months, 10 months older than almost everybody else, that's going to be an advantage. And so you're going to be the best player, or at least you have a better chance at being the best player. So you're going to get the most encouragement. You're going to get the most attention. You're going to have the most confidence, et cetera, et cetera. So that carries on with you. So just based on the time during which you were born, the month during which you were born, gives you a little bit of an advantage. Should we switch the time? Well, then someone else has the advantage based on when they're born. I know we need to have hockey leagues where everyone only competes with someone who shares their birthday. My point is, sometimes there are things in life where that give people a certain advantage over others based on things nobody can control. And I'm not trying to diminish the hard work that Olympic athletes put in. I get it. They train like no other. I'm not trying to diminish that at all. But in pretty much every circumstance, there's something about just the way they were born that kind of gives them a leg up over everybody else. Why is this particular thing under so much scrutiny? Well, I thought about this and I also realized, look, I'm a guy, maybe I'm missing something here. But then I came across this. And I think this person kind of summed it up perfectly. This is from Caroline, who's a screenwriter. I don't know much else about her, but I thought this kind of summed it up, and apparently a lot of other people did too, because this tweet went viral. Michael Phelps is literally referred to as a freak of nature because of his disproportionate wingspan, double-jointed ankles, lung capacity twice that of an average human, body that produces half the lactic acid of a typical athlete, and he is rightly celebrated for being the greatest male swimmer in history. Meanwhile, female athletes with genetic differences are legally discriminated against and harassed to no end. This is not about protecting women in sports. This is about protecting a very specific idea of what a woman is. I agree with that take. And I think that is beautifully put. So again, you had a bunch of people just running to the cause that, oh, a transgender, she's not transgender. Oh, well, she wasn't born the right way. We're not okay with the way she was born. even though she passed the standards by the Olympics. She was qualified by their standards. Oh, and by the way, there's an update. I should say that while some people have doubled down, other people responded a little bit differently when new information came to the surface. Here's what her opponent had to say recently. I want to apologize to Khalif. This is what the Italian boxer Angela Carini had to say more recently. Italian boxer Angela Carini, who abandoned her Olympic bout against Algeria's Imane Khalif inside 60 seconds, says she wants to apologize to her opponent for how she handled the moments after the fight. Khalif is one of 2 athletes to have been cleared to compete in the women's boxing in Paris, despite having been disqualified from last year's championships. That was the event in India, for failing to meet eligibility criteria. The 25-year-old's participation in the games has been controversial. All this controversy makes me sad, Carini told Italian newspaper Gazzetta dello Sport. I'm sorry for my opponent, too. If the IOC said she can fight, I respect that decision. Carini, who's also 25, said abandoning the fight had been a mature step to take, but she also expressed regret at not shaking hands with Khalif afterwards. It wasn't something I intended to do. Actually, I want to apologize to her and everyone else. I was angry because my Olympics had gone up in smoke. She added that if she met Khalif again, she would embrace her. So, interesting happening. And again, the biggest story here is that so many people are so eager to just scapegoat transgender people all the time that they couldn't bother doing the slightest bit of research to find out the actual story and to find out that this person is a woman. She's a woman. She was born a woman, raised a woman, passport, woman, competed as a woman her entire freaking life. Recent record, 9-5. That's not some behemoth beating the crap out of everyone. But yet there are still some people doubling down. Well, she wasn't born. She wasn't born the right way as a woman. It gives her an advantage. Well, we saw the slippery slope there. We talked about that. So, I don't know. If you're paying attention to the Olympics, enjoy it. I kind of haven't been, but some of the spectacle around it has been a little bit interesting. We've learned a couple things. We learned that a lot of devout Christians don't realize that their stories are derivative from other stories. We learned that right-wingers will assume that somebody was born a man if they win too handily in a boxing match. So, interesting. What a time. And folks, I got an announcement. The final screening of Left at Wall, at least the final screening for the foreseeable future, is happening in September 21st in London. London, where are you? I've had Status Coup fam at every show I've had in the past 2 years. London, don't let me down. Edinburgh didn't let me down. So London, don't let me down. One show only, September 21st at the Bill Murray, London. It's at 3 p.m., a matinee. I'm going to be doing a stand-up set, screening the film, and doing a Q&A after. You can get your tickets at ronplacone.com. London, see you September 21st. And this is Ron Placone for Status Coup, signing out.